Reading 71 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll. Volume 3. Great Animal House, March 29, 1947. Mechanics and Psychology. Last time, a short commentary was read on realizing that one is a machine. It was said that the realization that one is a machine and that one acts mechanically is profoundly distasteful. The illusion that we are fully conscious of everything we do or say is very strong. As a result, we justify even our most automatic behavior. We explain away everything, how we really meant to say this or do that. In this way, we avoid seeing in what way we are machines. For if you justify yourself in everything, that is, put yourself in the right, you will never admit that you act quite mechanically and are not properly conscious. Yet, sincere, uncritical, and direct self-observation will show you that you are not. This brings about a new emotional state. There are certain emotional experiences that are necessary in the work, and they come in a certain order and arise from contact with it over a sufficient period. These emotional states overcome the emotions belonging to or supporting false personality. They are painful to the self-conceit and self-valuation in general. It is, of course, the self-conceit that justifies our mechanical behavior and prevents us from seeing that we are machines. G once said, "One emotion can only be conquered by another emotion." Now, you might not suppose that glimpses of the fact that one is a machine give rise to any useful emotion. On the contrary, you might expect only negative emotions to arise. The strange thing is that this is not the case. The feeling of helplessness and the feeling of nothingness that come from the realization that one is a machine have nothing to do with negative emotions. At the back of negative emotions lie anger, violence, suspicion, bitterness, internal accounts, and so on. But behind the emotion arising from the realization of mechanicalness lies peace. And it is this emotion that can overcome negative emotions. Now, once you begin to feel negative emotions are mechanical, to feel for yourself by inner taste that this is so, you deprive them of a great deal of their power. Inner taste is the first sign of buried conscience. Unless we had this deeper emotional perception, we could never feel that negative emotions are undesirable. And if, in addition to this, you can see for yourself that they always lie and do not present things in a true way, but twist and distort everything, then you will not suffer from their continual dominion over you, as most people do. I mean, of course, provided you do not fall fast asleep. For if you feel they are mechanical and mentally see they tell lies, then you are using two centers consciously, and that makes something very powerful that can resist the great power of mechanicalness. It is these quiet emotions and insights and perceptions of truth that have the greatest healing power and help us against the tyranny of the machine, which all this time we have assumed is oneself. But this machine, oneself, is not really oneself. In the grip of it, we lead the most stupid and even idiotic lives. The work is to awaken us to a new behavior, apart from this stereotyped machine behavior. Remember, one can take everything in a new way. Yes, I assure you that you can take every life situation, every life event in an entirely new way if you see how you have hitherto taken it as a machine. Once this begins in you, you begin to have a psychology. An ordinary machine man has no psychology. G said once in so many words, "Why speak of ordinary man asleep as having a psychology?" An ordinary man asleep is a machine with buffers, attitudes, and pictures of himself that remain the same. For such a man asleep, a man not conscious, to use the word psychology is absurd. He has no psychology. He is a machine, and for the study of machines, only mechanics is necessary. But if a man begins to struggle with his machine, if he begins to see he is asleep in this acquired machinery, then such a man begins to cease to be this machine that life and upbringing has made him. And then, in such a case, we might begin to speak of psychology and not mere mechanics. Very often I used to ponder G's remark, what does it mean to have a psychology and not merely a machinery? On one occasion, speaking to O about this, he said in so many words, "You know that all this work and all real forms of esoteric teaching are designed to make it possible for a man to begin to feel the influences of higher centers. These centers, the higher mental and the higher emotional centers, correspond to what is called greater mind. But you must remember that logical thinking, based on the senses turned outward to the external world, does not put us in touch with these higher centers, which exist in everyone and are fully developed, and send their influences down to us. Our trouble is that we have not yet receptive apparatus to hear them with. For that reason, one definition of this work is the preparation of lower centers for the reception of the influences coming from higher centers. All that this work teaches practically, namely self-observation, non-identifying, self-remembering, not making internal accounts, not internally considering, not justifying, not going with negative eyes, not being depressed, making personality, especially false personality, passive, separating from negative states, breaking buffers, destroying pictures, seeing ingrained attitudes and not accepting them, stopping wrong imaginations. In fact, all that this work teaches is to purify lower centers for the hearing of higher centers. When a man wishes to keep in touch with this work, which really means to keep in touch with any moments of insight or self-remembering that he has had from higher centers, then he begins to have a psychology. I then began to understand that when G spoke of a man who had a psychology and not merely a machinery, he meant a man who had begun to strive to reach a higher level of himself, and that all this work is exactly about this, namely to get in touch with this higher side in him and find out by personal experience what cuts him off and what increases his contact with this higher level. Then I better understood the work phrase used in connection with the question, what is right and what is wrong? The answer was and is, all that puts you more asleep and makes you identify more is wrong. All that awakens you is right.